Oral questions. Questions on. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, to the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre, Poilievre.
Tomorrow, the Bloc will have to vote on a motion to decide, yes or no, if they're going to keep the most centralizing and costly government in power in the history of Canada. What's bad is for Quebec are costs that have doubled in terms of housing and the doubling of the national debt. The Quebec Premier says that the Quebec nation doesn't want to show its confidence in this government. And even after the Minister of Immigration, the Liberal minister, said that he broke the immigration system, and even if the minister doesn't have trust in his track record, why should the Bloc have trust in him or them?
It's they, them?
Once again.
Likely.
You have raised this issue yesterday and last week. You need to address questions to the government. I see that the Honourable Minister is standing to answer, but I'd just like to remind members that it's important for questions to be relevant to the government administration so that members can provide clear answers. The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader, after 20 years in this House, does not understand yet how the House works. One thing they don't still understand is the importance of dental care for Quebecers. He talks about hurting Quebecers. What does he tell Quebecers in my region? Don't sign up for the Canadian Dental Care Program because it doesn't exist. While in Quebec, there are 800,000 seniors that are signed up for dental care. He's telling them, don't sign up. It doesn't exist. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. This government has doubled housing costs for people in the Quebec region and tripled the cost of housing in Montreal and made the cost of food skyrocket so that too many Canadians have had to go to food banks every month. It's also pushed Quebec to the breaking point with an immigration system that the Liberal minister himself has said is broken. So the Quebec nation does not want a centralizing and costly government. Will the members vote for an election to elect a common sense government? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Mr. Speaker, there's a great deal of hypocrisy in this question. They're worried about people's lives, they say, but the Conservative leader isn't able to say clearly what his hidden agenda is. When the member for Grasslands has a trip paid to go to Florida, where he can sell a vision that is anti-abortion and anti-women's rights. And the first thing they need to do is control their caucus and reassure women here in Canada that their rights will not be affected.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
9 years of the NDP Liberals. Costs are up, taxes up, crime's up.
Time's up.
This
That's a
has doubled the cost of
dope-looking
housing,
suit.
doubled the debt, forced 2 million people to the food bank, raised taxes, and now they want a 61 cent a litre carbon tax that will grind our economy to a halt. The good news is, in a carbon tax election, Canadians can axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Can we bring it home now?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, maybe I can speak in a language the Leader of the Opposition will understand. They're going to cut the dental. They're going to axe the pharmacare. They're going to break the health system, and they're going to destroy childcare. The difference between those slogans and the nonsense he throws around, the vacuous garbage that's best left for Nabisco, not for the House of Commons, is that's the stuff he's actually going to do. And at some point, he's going to have to look in the eyes of seniors and tell them what he's going to do to dental care. He's going to have to look in the eyes of diabetes patients and say what he's going to do with their diabetes medication. At some time, the vitriol's done and the truth comes.
Dude, he's gonna make it cheaper for people to actually be able to afford these things on their own.
Colleagues, we're skating pretty close to the line. I'd
And why don't you let the people decide?
ensure that they don't do that. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I understand that when that member thinks of the prospect of a carbon tax election, he comes unglued and becomes very rattled and loses control of himself, waving his hands around because he's desperate to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. He's desperate to push a government takeover that will shut down people's private drug plans and ban them from having access to their medical plans. Common sense conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget,
and stop the crime,
and protect your drug plan. How about that?
There you go. You know what, chat? Let's drop some W's for Pierre, huh?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, this is the guy who said dental care doesn't exist. This is the guy that said providers won't sign up. Well, I got news for you. 750,000 people across this country got care. I also got news for you, Mr. Speaker, and that is more than 80% of providers has signed up. We're getting it done. So he can fearmonger, he can scare people, but we're going to get it done on pharma as well. We're going to make sure that diabetes patients get their medication. We're going to make sure that women get their contraceptive, because that's what freedom looks like. A woman who has choice over her own body.
I'd like to remind all ministers, all members, that answers should be directed, questions should be asked and answers should be directed through the chair. And I'm going to again ask members to make sure we don't skate too close to the line.
Come
the Honourable
on,
Leader
dude.
of the Opposition.
What his plan does is quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre and imposes a single payer that bans women from using their existing private plans to get contraceptives or any other form of medication. That's what a single payer means. And that is not what freedom looks like, Mr. Speaker. What he actually wants to do is quadruple the carbon tax, which will grind our economy to a halt. It will be a nuclear winter for our economy. Why don't we allow Canadians to vote in a carbon tax election to decide if they're ready to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime?
And stop the crime. Holy smokes! Don't mute the mic, bro. Don't make me start a petition.
Order.
His head really is round. Huh.
The Honourable Leader
He didn't mute the mic!
House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll tell you what freedom doesn't look like, and it doesn't look like Conservative members of Parliament taking all expenses, paid trips to Florida to talk about how...
The Honourable Member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Vita Lakes, I'd appreciate if he would, when he has his turn, and I know that he'll have his turn to ask questions, would refrain from speaking out of turn. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons from the top.
I'll write that strongly worded letter.
Speaker, I'll tell you what freedom doesn't look like, and it's Conservative members of Parliament taking all expensive paid trips to talk at anti-abortion conferences and to push forward an anti-abortion vision of Canada. Mr. Speaker, when he talks about women's rights, he neglects to share his hidden agenda that would take away their reproductive rights. Mr. Speaker, when he talks about freedom, he only talks about half of the story. Mr. Speaker, today what we are doing is demonstrating that this House does not have confidence in the leader of the Conservative Party.
Wow. You know reverse card, eh? You guys would be decimated. He just shushed
Let her have
a bunch of grown-ass adults.
The honourable member from Burnaby South.
The Liberals are too weak to stand up to Doug Ford, so some patients are leaving surgeries with thousands of dollars of bills. The Liberals are too weak to stand up to Daniel Smith. And so people in our province are forced to see a doctor. See, that's what Conservatives do. They cut and gut healthcare so their big business buddies can use that to rip off Canadians even more. Why is the Liberal government letting Conservatives privatize our healthcare system?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if you're going to be talking about being too weak, 2 days after the NDP leader got a letter from the leader of the Conservative opposition saying to back out of standing up for pharmacare and standing up for improvements in the healthcare system, he ran away. And if he ran away from that, how is he going to stand up for Canadians, is what I would ask, Mr. Speaker. And I would say that we had a chance. We were working well together. We got things done on dental. 750,000 people, over 80% of providers. We were working well together on pharmacare. If he has ideas, he knows we were all ears. But he's all about politics, Mr. Speaker. He's all about trying to divide.
He's got a southern accent. He's all about politics, Mr. Speaker. Or am I making that up? I heard a little twang on there.
Colleagues. The honourable member from Foothills.
For 9 years, the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and yes, time is up. According to the Liberal NDP's government's own statistics, the number of Canadians suffering with food insecurity is up 111%.
Wow.
That is a quarter of Canadians who don't know where their next meal is coming from. But there is a solution. Axe the carbon tax and give Canadians the relief they need. They know that 70% of Canadians want to axe the tax. Will they listen to Canadians tomorrow and call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It would be great in this House if the official opposition actually worked with facts. The vast majority of Canadians get more money back. We have a climate plan that is actually working, fighting the existential threat of climate change, but it is also creating economic opportunity and prosperity for the future. We have seen over 100 clean growth projects, $60 billion of investment. It's the $12 billion Dow invested in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. It's the Jansen Potash Mine. It's the Soyona Lithium plant in Quebec. It is a plan that is working. They have no plan for the future on the environment and no plan on the economy.
Wait, didn't a lithium factory just like blow up yesterday or this morning in Montreal?
Here's what their plan is doing. The Liberal NDP carbon tax is driving up costs on farmers, on truckers, on food manufacturers, and prices at the grocery store, and Canadians can't afford to put food on the table. According to Food Banks Alberta, use is up 73%, and 40% of those are children. Meanwhile, the Liberal NDP government say, hey, Canadians have never had it so good. Well, food banks are struggling just to meet demand. If the Liberal NDP government thinks that their carbon tax is so great, will they call a carbon tax election tomorrow and let Canadians decide?